Personality is a process, so you can change any part of your personality at any given point in time.
Sometimes you don't know what you are other than your work.
Your net worth is not your self worth. All the growth that we talk about happens at the meeting point of being in control and being out of control.
In today's day and age, all of us are living in this extremely high hustle culture.
Preoccupied mind always reduces your productivity.
Everyone is taking themselves so seriously in life.
Exactly,
Give yourself a little bit of break, yeah. Welcome to the Happy Hour with FinCocktail. Our guest today wears many creative hats and has transformed the lives of thousands of CXOs by coaching them. She's a high performance coach, speaker, and writer. She has a flair for the dramatic and is an absolutely kick ass content creator. We are hoping to get a few performance hacks from her ourselves to improve our creativity and performance. Here's welcoming Aditi Surana. Hi Aditi, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So Aditi, productivity is something that you talk about a lot.
Yes.
And everyone wants to maximize it and be better at it. And you've trained so many people from just like a layman like me to CXOs of companies. How did you get to becoming a high performance coach?
So the journey started because I'm dyslexic. And very early on, when I was 14, I started analyzing people and their behavior, and I started making like some serious, deep comments about themselves. And it was freaky, and all of us were like shocked, including myself. I had no clue how I was doing it. But someone told me there is a study called behavioral assessment, and you can be a professional into it. Next thing I knew, I wanted to do that. You know, as a teenager, you're figuring things out. So that happened. And I started working when I was 18. Luckily, I got coaches and trainers and mentors who kept pushing me to do better things. And thereby, very early on, I think at 21, I became a coach. So when I was coaching people, people were expecting me to answer their questions about life, this, that. I was just 21. So though I could accurately analyze them, I didn't know what to tell them. Then I said, I need to figure out one thing that I master. And what fascinated me the most is people's transformation and how some people somehow are always more productive than others. How they just tap into their extra special abilities in one or two areas and they know how to play it. And for me, it's fascinating. I would look at a person, anybody for that matter, and see what can this person do to get into their state of flow, function from the highest space that they can. And that just became a game, which I have been playing ever since.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, and we are like machines, like how your car would perform better if you tune it to the right settings, or your radio functions better when the frequency is tuned correct. People are also like that. If you just program their minds in a certain way, and for me, that's like always a mathematical game that I keep solving. And I keep saying this, that personality is a process, so you can change any part of your personality at any given point in time, and we continue to do that. I'm sure after being a mother, you must have seen the shift in your own personality already. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that is something that I've noticed that's changed the most. I mean, you go through a lot of changes when you deliver, but my personality has changed the most in the sense that I would be a very hyper person and now I'm super calm.
Exactly.
Very patient in a lot of situations that otherwise I wouldn't have seen myself being patient in. So,
And if somebody would have told you this probably 5 years ago, you would have disagreed with them, like, no,
Absolutely.
that's not me. But that's what
I would
happened.
have probably been like, what are you talking about? I would have laughed it off or something like that. But no, I mean, you're absolutely correct. And when you say something like, you have to set the person to the right tune, or something that works for you, that makes you a high performer. How do you get to doing that? How do you identify your right tune?
So all of us know that there are things that we do, where we forget the track of time, right? Or we keep doing it and we keep going back to it no matter how complicated things become. We want to contribute more to it. We want to find ways. We do more research when nobody is watching in the extra hour because we are curious. So I feel we all have those elements, but we don't bring them together. Like I feel, how certain songs bring the certain exciting parts of you,
Yeah.
and people, athletes or researchers have found that when you tune your mind like that, like by playing that one song or by creating an environment, that what you do, you can do that with your work also. You just have to identify and observe more. And that's exactly what I do as a coach. I study your personality to know what can you do, because there are types and there are like patterns we all follow. So I can study what can you do to maximize already what you have.
Wow. And what's that process of study like? How do you sort of identify these particular traits that a person has that can help them become a high performer?
There are multiple ways. One, we do psychometric assessment. I'm certified in 4 of them. One of my favorite one is called graphology,
Okay.
where I study specifically handwritings of people to know the behavioral choices that they make. You ask people questions, you observe how they describe the situation. It's not always what happens and what has not happened, is what is the perspective that they bring in. A small conflict can give away so much of information about how we think and where we come from, what do we feel, is there a victim story, fixed mindset, growth mindset. So all the micro choices are giving away who we are every day. There's something called delayed gratification. So if somebody is eating, if the whole meal is served, and if you eat your favorite thing first, that means you want to get your gratification immediately. And if you keep that thing to the last part of your meal, then you delay your gratification. That can be correlated to how you look at the most difficult parts of your work, whether you would pick them up first or would you push them away, would you procrastinate them. So many of your micro choices actually give away who you are.
Wow, that's very interesting. So when you spoke about this meal, I literally always save what I love the most for the last.
Yeah, and that's why you're in the career that you are, because you also delay your gratification with your financial choices, maybe. And you say, I would do them only when I'm done with other things, isn't it?
Interesting, yes.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's great.
great career choice.
Thank you. So you know what? In today's day and age, all of us are living in this like extremely like high hustle culture. Everyone wants to like sort of do so many things at once. They want to be good at everything. While it can be motivating, sometimes I think it also takes a toll on your mental and physical well-being.
Of course it does.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on hustle culture and how it affects productivity?
I don't believe in hustle culture. I know we got to do a lot. Like I have a serious hobby as an actor. So I professionally act, and I also I'm an artist, so I do paintings and canvases and all of that, and it takes time. So when I say I don't believe in multitasking, people laugh at me because I have like 3-4 things that I'm seriously into. But what I mean by no multitasking or hustle is preoccupied mind always reduces your productivity. So if you're doing something, there's a concept called slow multitasking, which means you pick one thing at a time, be completely dedicated to that thing for a few hours maybe, and then come out and do the next thing. But when people talk about hustle, they talk about juggling multiple balls at the same time. And that's so destructive for our minds, that only makes you feel that is pending. I haven't done that. Oh my God, when I'm going to get to it?
Yeah.
It is just depleting people. And I meet so many people and I feel sorry, so that I just want to tell them. I'll give you an example, a story. I was shooting a video with a friend of mine, and she runs a beautiful queer brand, Bunique. And Simi, her name is. We were studying in IM last year together, and she wanted to make a video for her brand with me, collaboration kind. And she said, we planned it and we wrote the script, everything happened. The time of shoot, when we had planned, she realized we are delayed because of some college extra lecture or something like that. She said, I don't have time, I have to rush. And I looked at her and I'm like, okay, when do you want to go? She said, I need to leave as soon as possible. I said, how much time do we have? She said, 15 minutes maybe. I'm like, okay, give me those 15 minutes, but I want all of those 15 minutes. She's like, what does that mean? I'm like, I want you to be fully present. Let's do this. And I promise you will be done in 14 minutes. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. So we did multiple takes of the same thing. We did whatever was needed and we were literally done in 14 minutes.
Wow.
And she gave me that look. She's like, How did it happen? Because her brain that was like really preoccupied and was, planning how to catch the flight, what to do, how to pack, everything just stopped for a moment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have taken probably an hour and we wouldn't have achieved it.
Yeah.
This is a concept called deep work, which most of the time people fail to do with Instagram, with social media, with all the distractions that we have and the hustle culture. So I'm absolutely against it.
Yeah. I agree, because I see a lot of, I mean, I don't want to call myself old, but a lot of people who are younger than me are always like hustling. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to do so many things at once. And I feel like I'm not from that mindset at all. I want to do one thing and I want to like do it properly.
And I think the new generation has to know that be monogamous
Yeah.
with your task.
Work.
Yeah. Other things we don't want to comment.
So Aditi, I saw this video of yours which sort of really struck a chord, and in that video you're talking about your work becoming your identity. Sometimes you don't know what you are other than your work. So tell us a little bit about that, and how how can you sort of work towards identifying yourself other than your work.
So where it comes from is when we are really young, when we do something good, people say, "Oh my God, you're such a nice person, good boy, good girl." So we start believing that if I do something good, I become a good
Boy or a
person.
girl, yeah.
Right? My personality, my identity is based on the numbers, the results, and eventually as we grow, based on the financial status or the bank balance that I have. And I keep saying this to people that your net worth is not your self worth. Right? Your work is not your identity, because if you fail there, you feel like a failure. And that's the basis of a fixed minded person. Anybody who is fixed minded, they always feel, if I fail, I can't fail, because if I do, people would think I'm not good enough. Whereas when we say my identity is not my work, we also have a little room to know, if I fail at something, I failed at that thing, and that thing is not me. Like an actor who fails, flops
In a movie.
flops, yeah. So that doesn't mean the person is a bad actor. The movie flopped, and there's so many reasons.
So
why
many
the-
factors behind it.
Right? Similarly, and we understand it logically, but still you can take your failure personally and probably quit acting. And you think, why would somebody do that? Just one movie. But people don't do that to their own presentation, or their one promotion miss, or their one failure in a corporate career.
Yeah.
So same thing is applicable. Your work can't be your identity, because that will put you under so much pressure that you will not experiment, you would not take risks, you would not do things that nobody has ever done, and then you would not grow faster than other people.
Yeah.
So what would really allow your success to become more inviting in your life are the same things that would make you uncomfortable. And it is important that you allow yourself to be uncomfortable.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yesterday I wrote this piece for a reel as a voiceover, and I said, thank you for the gift of discomfort, because if you're not uncomfortable, nothing gonna change. All the growth that we talk about happens at the meeting point of being in control and being out of control.
Yeah.
So if you're not out of control in moments, then you would just do what is comfortable. And if your identity is based on that, you would never do something that will make you slightly that jittery. Yeah, and you're like, no, I don't want to do this. And you won't grow.
Yeah.
So productivity is based on doing things efficiently, but doing it from a space of feeling in control, not controlling.
Yeah.
Feeling in control requires you to play the game.
Yeah.
Right? All athletes who are in control, they have so many moves available to them that they are, no matter what happens, they're in control.
Yeah.
But they're not controlling. They're like, oh, you don't go there, you don't go. That happens when people have fixed mindsets.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow, very interesting. It just sort of takes me back to when I joined Siley at FinCocktail. I mean, she had founded FinCocktail, and a few months down the line, she sort of asked me to join her. And when I said yes, I thought I was going to be joining her in the capacity of just sort of doing like the back end work, the research, and not being in front of the camera, because that's something that I was extremely uncomfortable
Really?
with.
I can't wake up.
Extremely uncomfortable with. I literally had to stand in front of a mirror for weeks.
Oh,
Okay? And just look at myself and talk to myself in front of that mirror. And then next was the selfie camera, where I had to put myself behind the selfie camera and like just practice doing things and saying things and like dancing around a little
Yeah,
bit, and it took a while for me to get there and get out of that comfort zone.
but
Till
every time it would be uncomfortable, right? Till the time,
absolutely,
yeah, okay.
absolutely. So even till today, there is still a part of me that is not absolutely comfortable getting behind the camera. I mean, I've come a very very long way,
Of course.
but there's that tiny little part where, sometimes I'm like, do I have to? you know, but
Yeah, she is laughing.
I know I have no choice
Siley.
now. Thanks to Siley.
But that's the part, like, showing up in spite of that fear, in spite of having those butterflies in your stomach, is the game.
Yeah.
And this is where you can't, if your identity is based on how you feel, and if you're right or you're wrong, you would never be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But you're like little playful, and you say, okay, I am this professional. Also, I would like to be a content creator. Also, I would like to play and see what happens. Now, all of this gives you room, and none of them is your identity.
Absolutely. Wow. It's a great way of looking at things.
Yeah. It's also like not taking ourselves so seriously.
Yeah.
Like because
Seriously, I mean, you really said the right thing. Everyone is taking themselves so seriously in life.
Exactly. And with
Just
all-
give yourself a little bit of break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut yourself some slack.
and by that we don't mean splurge your money.
No,
we just
of course
mean
not.
we just mean like,
This is a finance podcast.
Yes.
Please do not splurge your money, guys.
but there are so many ways in which you can take yourself lightly and have fun with things. And it's not about where you go and how much you spend. I think it's a lot to do with how you feel.
Yeah.
And to know how you feel, you have to drop so many of these mindset limitations that we have. I think if we do that, it just becomes more fun.
And easier. I mean,
Easier, yeah.
So this brings me to something that you started called the Mental Fitness Gym.
Yes.
How did that come about?
So this is my lockdown baby.
Okay.
Unlike you, I just had a little business idea as a baby. So what happened? Two things happened. I started a social initiative to help people deal with anxiety. And this started the very moment lockdown was announced, because I was researching about how people are dealing with lockdown in China, in Italy, in Germany, and most of the people reported anxiety, depression, because they were in lockdown 4 months prior to us.
Yeah.
And when I looked at it, I'm like, what are we doing? How are we going to help people? And that time I had 1,500 people who are my followers on Instagram. But Instagram had announced that feature called Instagram Live.
Yeah.
So it's a new thing.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's go live every day for 21 days. And this is an anti-anxiety journaling workshop. Literally, as I'm speaking, this is how it got created. But I had done a lot of research before that. And I had all the material required. So I said, let me just give it away to people. And that built a community. And we worked with around 40,000 people. We worked for 1,000 days non-stop. And my entire team worked on it, because we gave people support to do that journaling method. And it was so tiring. And while I was at it, people said, do something more. And I'm like, I don't work with groups. I don't know what to do, because I'm a one-on-one coach. I work with leaders. So I didn't have a product to offer, none of it. One day I was in a yoga class and my teacher said, for the next 1 month, we're going to only work on our back bends. And I'm like, okay. And I observed people, they were apprehensive, they were uncomfortable. But in that 1 month, people just improved by 40%. Because she did everything required for back bends. And I'm like, why can't we do the same thing for our listening skills, for anything that can cause stress, like your ability to deal with rejection or say no, or step into a state of flow. So I said, let's create a mental gym, like you have physical gyms, where we do this. So mental fitness gym was an idea that was born because of that yoga class where she said back bend for one entire month. So we exactly did that. We took one concept and worked with it for an entire month and saw what happened. And I did that for 2 years and stopped it in June 2023 to start a new productivity space where I want to work with leaders and executives, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. So we took the space, the thing we had built, and now I use the same tool for a 100-day program, which is a 3 months program for productivity gym.
Wow. Very interesting. So your new program just deals with
mindset and high performance mindset or productivity.
And only for CXOs and
no,
sort
for
of
anybody.
for
Everybody. Yeah. So the idea is for all of us to have the toolbox that would make us more productive, more efficient. The thing with mental fitness gym, we realized that people who were going through mental health issues, I couldn't have worked with them. And when we said mental fitness, people thought, oh, they were going to work with like depression and all of it. So we realized that's not what I want to do. I want to, going back to my passion, is to see people transform and see how, they step into the highest performing side of their personality. So then I created this productivity gym. That's what I'm working on right now.
Nice, interesting. So you mentioned something about stress, and stress is something I believe that it's a part of everyday life. There's really no escaping it. Although people keep saying, "Don't take stress about this, don't take stress about that." Stress to hai yaar,
Hai.
and it's going to be there. So I heard you mention in one of your videos something about having a stress appetite.
Yes.
What exactly does that mean?
So I coined this term while I was coaching this mental gym people, and I realized something interesting. I'm like, wait, people are running away from stress, looking at it like a bad concept. But every person who has been successful in your world, my world, in public world, they have gone through more stress than all of us can imagine. Which means they learned how to build the special
A
ability, tolerance, and that is your stress appetite. Now stress appetite is slightly more than tolerance, because tolerance is when things happen to you and you tolerate them and you go through it. Appetite is you actually invite things to put you under stress, which means you would go to a trainer and ask them to teach you things that you can't do and you struggle with. Like, I'm dyslexic, and for me, speaking grammatically correct is really difficult, or writing grammatically correct does not happen. Even now, my drafts are checked by my team or chat GPT and everything possible. But I went to a writing coach, I think in 2018, and she worked with me to make it easier for me to go through the process. Now, if I wouldn't have gone, and it was horrible because I had to expose myself to her and really understand how I can't do basic writing and basic, compositions. And after that, it just became easier because you build the stress appetite. So things that we avoid most of the time, and I think in that video also I mentioned there are two parts to understand what stresses you out. Probably you don't have the skill set for it, and that's why you're stressed. Or you don't have practice for it, and that's why you're stressed. So create ways in which you can build the skill set, or find a way to practice it so much that you become comfortable.
Wow. So you're telling me that anybody who has any kind of a learning disability, something like dyslexia, what are the ways for them to sort of improve their self-confidence? Because it takes a huge hit. Like when you said that you went to this person and you had to expose yourself completely, it's not good on your self-confidence. You're probably going to feel not great about it.
No, you don't feel great about
Yeah.
it. Yeah, like I used to speak in front of like 500 people. They would invite me as a speaker, and I would not write on the board because I know I would make spelling mistakes. And I would invite one of the participants to come and write on the board because I just felt, and at that time I didn't know I'm dyslexic. So I just was an adult who couldn't write properly, is what I thought about myself. And I used to feel so ashamed
So how
of
did
it.
you discover it?
At 26, I took up a test.
At
because-
26?
Yes, because a friend of mine mentioned that I think you have symptoms of dyslexia. I'm like, really? She said, yeah, go take a test. And I did.
Wow.
But till that point, I think it was a lot more struggle. When I got diagnosed, then it was easier. I'm like, oh.
At least I know what it is.
Yeah, and all of this is happening because my brain is wired differently.
Yeah.
And there are benefits of this. So going back to your question about confidence, I feel the solution of that is in growth mindset. When you build a growth mindset, every challenge becomes feedback. Okay. It is not a problem to fight. It is rather a situation. It's like an indicator. Your fuel tank indicator, which is low, it is not low because you are a bad person. It is low because there's something wrong that you have done. You haven't filled the fuel. Similarly, when you understand that for everything, you say, okay, I can't speak because I do not have the structured work in my mind, because grammar doesn't come naturally to me. When I accept that about myself, I start working at it, then you would not feel uncomfortable. Also, it helps when I tell people this is what my problem is. So if I speak something wrong, correct me. But it took a lot of work and courage and practice, going back to stress appetite, to know that this is possible.
Wow.
So yeah, it takes work.
Wow.
It takes work.
So having this growth mindset is very important, I'm sure.
I believe.
But how does one get to it? Can you give us like a couple of sort of tips
Of course.
to, improve that growth mindset?
So whenever you think about you can't do something, and if you know that inner voice that goes like I can't do this, let me not, like, and you
Yeah.
know you're escaping the situation,
Yeah.
sit yourself down, like literally, like, Aditi, sit here is what I would do to myself and say, what's the problem? And when you have that stern conversation with yourself, we all know we are like escaping the situation, and replace your inner dialogue by telling yourself you can't do this yet.
Yet. Being the keyword.
Yet. So the very moment you say I can't do this yet, which means I need to either practice it, learn it, go and hire someone else, and then your pressure is much lesser. Yeah, just the very moment I said it, you're like, yeah, I can't do this yet. I
Yeah.
don't have to. Like, so that whole idea. Second thing is perfectionism. It's okay if you're not perfect. And we hear this all the time. But you will catch yourself running away from the opportunities because you think you're not perfect. So sign up for it. Don't sign up for like that big promotion if you're like really scared about it, but 10% more and 20% more. Wherever you feel, probably I might be imperfect, sign up for it. So train yourself under that situation and see what would happen if you grow there, grow in the areas where otherwise you shy away from. And the last one and my favorite one is uh, find an accountability partner, which is someone else who's also interested in a similar space, that they can hold space for you, because doing it alone is difficult. So sometimes when I do these master classes and group coaching sessions, there are people, the whole community is working together, so people hold each other and it's easier. Find a friend who is in a similar space or has similar interest. Hire a coach who can do that, or hire a personal trainer who could do that, whatever that is. But find ways in which you would challenge yourself, create an environment around you. Alone is difficult.
Yeah.
We all know this. So build an environment which will allow you to do more and more of that.
Wow. So Aditi, let's pivot the conversation a little bit to what this podcast is actually about, money.
Yes.
And conversations around money have always been so difficult, and yet I feel like they're so important to have. But most of the times people shy away from them. Why do you think it is so?
You asked me the question about identity. In our world, money is very closely associated with identity. So if you, one, don't have enough, then you're not good enough. You don't get access to many of the circles, you're not valued as much. If you're not good with it, then again you are not a good person. You might have money, but if you're not good with it, people look down upon you for like mismanaging it. And there is fear about managing money. Women I've met, like really strong, intelligent professionals, but they just feel uncomfortable about, because psychologically it is ingrained in their mind at some level that money is not your thing. So any one of those reasons could be that make people uncomfortable. Culturally, some families or some cultures do not appreciate money being discussed. It is all hush hush. And for all Indians, हमारे पास वो भी तो है, नजर लग जाएगी.
Absolutely.
So all of it, the reasons, I think we too much association with money and who you
Yeah.
are.
No, but you're absolutely right about women and money, especially because that's exactly why FinCocktail happened.
Yeah.
Because both Siley and me have friends that girlfriends that are doing so well in their lives, financially, professionally. All of them really smart, but somehow always shy away from managing their own money.
But
And-
I was guilty of it. Like my ex-husband managed all my money, and luckily he did a very good job of that. But when I was divorced, I looked at it and I'm like, I don't have a clue how to look at it. And because of dyslexia also, I kept away from numbers. So, all of it. But at the end of it, I'm like, I'm an adult. If I can do so many other things,
Why
but
not this?
Why not this? But it came from the mindset problem that I don't have to. I can just delegate and I can just take care of it.
It is true, because most women delegate it to their husbands or their fathers or brothers, because they know that these are people that I trust. I'm okay to sort of let them do this for me.
Not really. They're not okay. They just feel dependent on it. Like, if I have to tell my example, and many other women I meet and I observe, I feel we all did it, or I stopped doing it after that. But that's mainly because you just feel it's one less responsibility. And I think what you girls are doing and why I love it is you've broken the significance of financial education, and you made it casual, you made it fun, you made it obvious, and in the style that you present, it's very light, right? So anybody can consume it, anybody can learn from it, and feel informed about it, which most institutions till now pretty much didn't do it, didn't appreciate being done. So they just looked down upon people who made it like fun. They say, oh, that's frivolous. It's not frivolous. Like, anything else is broken down in simplicity. Money and technology maybe was kept away from simplicity.
Yeah.
People took pride in making it jargonated so that people could make money off us.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely
Yeah,
true.
so when
And it was finance is always, till date, most people think of it as boring. Finance is looked at it that way.
because
That is
the
boring.
books are written like that.
Yeah.
Until the whole culture of financial creators didn't come into play, people were very, very serious about all these topics, and they're
Absolutely.
like, oh, you can't make fun of it.
It wasn't ever a dinner table conversation or a
Yes.
conversation that you had with friends. It was always a matter to be taken very, very seriously.
Hidden
Only,
behind the
yeah.
yes.
So, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's
I think, thank God, like, in what I think, keep doing it, the work that you do. I know your followers who are my friends, and they have learned a lot, especially during the lockdown, looking
Yeah.
at your content. So great work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But also, in a workplace, money plays a very important role, because even when you sort of want to negotiate your paycheck or ask for that salary hike, or, ask for that promotion, it is a conversation that people shy away from, and they know their ability and their skills and, what they've done to deserve it. But it's not something that they can ask for very easily. How does one sort of tackle that kind of struggle in their own mind?
So there are two parts to it. One is struggle within, and then the struggle
Outside.
Both of them are important. So struggle within, I think it's very important to know that your work is not your value. Okay, it's not your value, and I'm repeating it over and over again. But if you think, if I don't get promoted, if I don't get increment, that means I think other people are better. You're signing a contract with a devil, because that's not how it's going to be, and you will never be comfortable hearing the rejection. First part. Second part is, when you evaluate it, you have to bring enough value to the table. Like, all of us get paid not for the number of hours, for the value that we create. And if the value created is higher, then people would want to pay you more. So if they're questioning whether you're good enough or not, and I'm not talking about manipulative bosses, I'm just talking about a fair work culture at this point in time. So if your value is not enough, just ask yourself honest question, can I bring in more value? And if you think you're doing already good and your value is enough and all of it, now the struggle is external, which is about how do I go and have that conversation. Yeah. So if internally all is well, then externally, while talking to people, be prepared for all three outcomes. Okay. Like, they may say yes, they may say maybe, or they may say no. And you have to be okay with all three. And if you're not okay, just sit again down and say, what would happen if they say yes? What percentage would you negotiate? What would happen? What if they say maybe? And what if they say no? Mostly people go in that conversation only hoping they would say yes. And they would agree on that 15% or 20% increment, and they feel disheartened. So my analogy for this is, imagine those Oscar nomination, those camera movement happens, like they announce something and there are 4 people. Now, you might be one of the winners, but if you're not, then the camera is still on you. What reaction would you give? Would you react? Would you break down? Would you feel overwhelmed? You might be feeling all of this, but
You're
I'm
not going to
sure.
show it.
And also, you prepare for it.
Yeah.
If the answer is no, what would you do? And people, when they are not prepared for no, they just have reactions, or they have fears. Talk to people who have gone through these negotiations in your organization. What is a policy? Figure out a way what is acceptable, and do it in practice session. How you did it in front of the mirror. These conversations must be practiced, especially if you get butterflies.
Yeah.
it's only obvious for you to, put yourself on the line and receive rejection.
Yeah.
So in one of our 1 month of mental fitness gym, the topic was rejection. And I asked people to go and seek 7 rejections. And people are like, huh? How do I do it? And I'm like, really, that's your job. And if you don't do it, it is not acceptable. That was their assignment. So people went out and then they asked for promotion and then thought, obviously, I would get rejected. And they did not. And somebody applied for PhD, somebody applied. So, rejection is very personal. We can't handle it. And that's why we don't ask for increments easily.
Yeah.
Because we fear they would say
No.
no. But what if they say no and you know what to do after that?
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, okay, fine. I think I can deal with it.
Oh, nice. That's a great way of looking at it. If I don't even know what I would do if somebody told me go look for 7 rejections.
Think about it.
It's
I'm going to check with you next month.
yes, please do. It's gonna put me on like a whole trip.
And what it would do is you would be comfortable. So currently I'm running a social project. It's called One Thing I'm Afraid to Do. And that's the idea. I asked people, I was at a Spoken Fest event and I went around and asking people on mic and camera, one thing that you're afraid to do. And one girl said, I don't like to talk to strangers. I'm really afraid. And then we spoke to her and I said, okay, do you want to do it now? She said, now you want to? I'm like, yeah, you are uncomfortable. That's her rejection thing. And she went and she spoke to 5 strangers.
At the event.
At the event, right there. And we followed her with her camera. But the idea is anything that you're... Like, I was afraid to showcase my work, my artwork. I did it during the lockdown and did it for myself. But I never showed it to anyone publicly. And I said, one thing I'm afraid to do is to take the work and go to a gallerist because they would say it's horrible or it's basic or whatever they would say. And I did that. I posted the pictures on Instagram. And a friend of mine from Bangalore, an artist, Praveen Kumar, his name is, he reached out and said, hey, do you want to participate in India Art Festival? I said, yeah. And he said, okay, let me talk to the gallerist. And my art was showcased for last 4 days in the festival. For sure. But that is beyond rejection.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. I wanted to pitch for my poetry performance at Spoken Fest, which is an event that happens in Bombay.
Yes.
And I got rejected. And I said, and I made a video on it. I'm like, you know what? I participated, I got rejected. So you don't know what happens. But when you seek rejection, magic can happen.
Yeah. So like you said, rejection and like financial struggles, this is something that people are scared of. You know, you don't go seeking it out. If you can avoid it, you will do that at best. But when you're sort of dealing with financial struggles and obstacles in your workplace or in your personal life, what are some quick tools to sort of, maneuver around those and sort of put yourself in a better mind space?
So it does this particular experiment that I did for almost 4 years. It doesn't come from only financial thing, but it comes from like a mental regulation. I decided to. I always felt very fascinated with this idea of sannyas, taking sannyas. And there's a path of complete surrender where you do not only jump off the next idea, the next desire, the next purchase that you want to make. You sit down and you observe whether you really want to do this or not and why do you want to do it. So you reflect before you take any decision. And that one practice for 4 years, that was my whole sadhana period. It ended last year. But in that period, I did not shop much. I did not jump on like those next travel plans. I did not, the general way people had always known me or I had known myself. And I paused, I broke the pattern. So most of the time, financial struggles come from patterns that people carry. They keep repeating the same patterns because they believe there is no other choice. And when I added this to my life of like observing over any desire, any impulse, anything, I'm like, okay, and reflecting on it, that was my practice. And that changed so many choices. And I realized our impulses, that quick gratification, that joy, that next purchase, all of it comes from we feeling that I have to have it to feel happy. I must have it to feel good. Without this, I am less of. And thanks to the capitalist world that we live in, we're constantly made to feel this way.
Yeah.
right? We are constantly
Those ads on Instagram are like
everywhere.
always harrowing you.
All happy people are buying their products, whatever their product is. But this is how the world is. And and if you don't have their product, if you don't have that car, that perfume, this or whatever, that bag, you would always feel less off, is how you're projected to be, right? I also believe that comfort as an idea is overrated. We're always told, oh, don't take efforts, be comfortable. Don't take efforts, be comfortable. And all products are being sold for your extra comfort. And today we live in a generation that is physically very comfortable and mentally extremely anxious because you don't have enough occupation. So all the things that you desire, even the financial struggles that you feel, question what does it mean to be financially struggling? That sometimes mean, and most of the time means, that you are not happy where you are. You just think, I will be happy only if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. So first define what does that even mean for you. Because if you drop that idea, then we are struggling only here. Physical, practical, financial struggle, I think FinCocktail has so many solutions to solve it. But there are so many ways. I think what you're asking me as an expert is, what do people do with that struggle when they feel? So this comes from Viktor Frankl's concept of reaction, pause. Like any trigger that you have, you always pause and then you respond and you don't react. And when you have that pause in the middle, it allows you to have a different perspective. As I said, when you go for increment kind of discussion and to ask people, okay, that negotiation, you be prepared for all the possibilities. Similarly, when you're struggling financially, this is not an end of all. Like we all know, like the worst phases that you have gone through your life, you have only grown from them when you fought the battles. Yeah. Right? It is not like, I ask people, this is my favorite question to ask every time I do a public workshop. I'm like, tell me one moment that you were most proud of yourself. And people pause, they think, they ponder, and they say, that phase. And then I ask them to write about it. And they say, okay, was it like the toughest phase? They say, yeah. Did you really work hard? They say, yeah. Did you really question your belief? They say, yeah. So basically, that's exactly what you're doing right now. Probably a phase that you would be proud of eventually if you fight it. And most of the time, people have a victim story in their mind. That's what builds a struggle of any kind. What's the difference between a game and a struggle? Is victim story versus a hero story. So if you're struggling with something and feeling exhausted by it because you're repeating a victim story, why it happened to me? Oh my God.
You're victimizing yourself.
Absolutely. But if you take the same situation and change the context and ask yourself, so what is it? What can I learn here? What is my game? What is that next thing I need to master? And every situation will have something that you must learn from. I'm a big believer of that.
Wow. But it's hard to actually take away, that kind of mindset when you're in the situation. And when it's happening to you, you're always like, why is this happening to me?
But that is a time to learn. That is it. So I keep saying this. If you avoid the grind, you avoid the growth. So if you are like really struggling, like I do high intensity weight training.
Okay.
And the actual muscle building happens at the edge of your
those last 2 reps where you're like, I can't do this anymore.
Same thing with life. So your mental capacity build-up happens only when you're at the edge of your capacity. And that's exactly what is happening when you feel, I can't take it anymore. Ask yourself, what do I need to learn? How do I use this grind to my advantage? How can I learn the most from it and walk into it? Because the way out is through. There is no other way around it. And I'm saying this after studying hundreds of high performers, working with them closely. And I know all of them have taken those grinds and have walked through this. They haven't avoided it, which most people don't get.
Wow. Very interesting. Nice. So when I talk about money and finances and wealth creation for that matter, it's a very long-term game. You need a lot of discipline. You need a lot of focus. And more often than not, people tend to waver from their path. How do you sort of train your mind? Or I wouldn't say train, but how do you get into that mindset?
I like train the word.
You like the word train? Okay. I didn't want to offend you.
No, I love it. I think we all need training. Yeah.
So how do you sort of train your mind to not waver from the path of discipline and just keep doing what you're doing?
It's my favorite topic to talk about.
Yeah.
So, first thing, you will waver. You will have breakdowns. You will not follow your routine, whatever you're deciding regularly. This is how it works. You will go off. The game isn't coming back. So you will fall, but get up fast and get back on your cycle again. That's what you can control. Not falling, you can't control. There will be other things, and you will have other financial requirements, or you would have one lazy month. It would happen. It's normal, but get back. So create so many reminders in your world, as I was saying, environment. So probably on your phone, change the screensaver and make it about your financial goal that you want. Or have reminders put on your calendar, which every 3 months, every 2 months you check in yourself. Or have a friend who can be in this game with you together, or a close or financial advisor maybe, who would check on you. Like, my advisor keeps checking on me every 3 months, and we have a review meeting. So I know I give myself like game targets to just play that financial investment game, and it's fun for me. Make it fun, because if you don't have love affair with things that you want to be consistent with, then they become one more
Thing to do.
Yeah, and then you just hate it and you drag your feet, and that just changes how you feel about it. So it has to be fun, and make games out of it so that you are entertained. I think that's the most important thing.
Wow, nice. So you mentioned something about having a financial advisor. Now that is something that a lot of people sort of always grapple with. Should I do this myself? Should I get an advisor? What are your thoughts on this?
Jeno kam teno bhai, duja kare to gota khai. Which means an expert can do a better job than you. And I believe that about everything. Somebody who has spent years studying, like in my case, I've spent like 20 years studying people. And when I make a perspective comment about something that you're doing, it comes from all that years of experience. And if I feel as a coach, I can do that to someone else's situation, I believe my financial advisor would do the same thing to my situation, because that's exactly what they do for probably 8 hours a day for many, many years, and that they build like a certain kind of understanding. Now, you have to be very careful about who is handling your money. You have to ask enough questions, because I know so many advisors who are not good, and people have suffered because of that. So don't choose blindly, but choose somebody who's good, but choose someone. Like, a doctor can give you a better perspective. Similarly, a financial doctor is what I believe the advisor is. They would assess your financial health and help you.
So why do you believe people shy away from getting this kind of professional help?
Sorry to say this, but your industry people have been fooling poor people for a very, very long time, and the kind of misinformation given, the hidden clauses that they have in the in the in
In
the
the fine print.
fine print, which we can't read at all of this has created this mistrust, because people have had bad experiences. And back in the day, I remember people who sold insurance in a certain way, they used that method to convince people that is financial planning, and thereby generations have lost money because of being misinformed. So you have to deal with generational trauma when it comes
Yeah.
to finding a right financial advisor. But uh, I think I say this to women most of the time, but invest in getting yourself trained. There are many, many books. There are many video modules now. And I keep going back to it. I'm currently doing financial planning and balance sheet management kind of a course from IIM Bangalore for women entrepreneurs as specific. But
Wow.
you have to educate yourself, because it's not easy for somebody who's not from that field. So to ask right question to your advisor, you have to have enough information.
Okay.
If you don't have that, then you feel you are dependent on them, and I feel that makes people uncomfortable. So do your basic research, you go through basic training, but then go to an expert. I think I do it like that.
Yeah.
My personal way of
Yeah,
doing
no, that's the right way to do
Yeah.
it, because you don't want to be blindsided, or you don't want to like sort of entrust everything to somebody not knowing what's happening to your own money, right? It's hard-earned money. You don't want to
Yes.
sort of let that just do whatever they want. So yeah, I think that's a good take on it. So tell us what are the few ways in which you manage your own money? Because I know you're an entrepreneur. You have a couple of businesses that you run. Multiple sources of income maybe. How do you manage your personal wealth?
So as I was mentioning, I always give myself quarterly targets, And there are 3 levels of targets I do. One is mandatory, that you must do. Second is it would be nice to. And third is like the game plan. And it's color coded on my Excel sheet. And I try to hit the game plan, because for me, that's the game. It's like, that extra rep in the gym. But it is not very significant. So as long as I do my basic investment, which is discussed in advance with my financial advisor for the year, then I'm happy. I'm in a good space. But if I do more, then it becomes just like a personal perks. Probably, I can't say I would shop more after that, because I won't. But actually, it
Now
becomes
you're a sannyasi. I'm sure you won't.
not anymore. I was till last year. Now I probably can. But the point is, you actually figure out your methods of solving the game plans. Like it's literally like a gamification that works for me. Second thing is constant evaluation. So I have review meetings with the people who manage my money, and I study what I would like to do. So I would probably spend few hours every month understanding whatever investments I've made, whether they're working, not working, where they're going. And review meetings help me, and I feel I learn faster when I talk to people. And like as I said, I keep training myself. So I'm currently doing this new course with my college, and then that would help me ask better questions. So
Interesting. Nice.
yeah. And I focus a lot on making money.
Yeah.
So also I think that becomes easier, that saving money is not my easiest way. So I realized, can I just focus on thereby making money? Because there are 2 ways you can maximize this, right? By saving whatever you have and by cutting corners. I'm not that person, I realize. But then you make more money. You find constant revenue sources to make more money.
Great. Nice. So do you have any questions for me
Yes.
in terms of...
I was waiting. So tell me, when somebody is starting on their journey, especially with their financial planning, the biggest thing is what to do. Like, people are not even aware of how to look at how much percentage of their wealth, how much percent of their income they should like really look at investing in, say, stock market, non-stock market. And I know that you might have a formula, but what is it for like entrepreneurs? Because the income is like changing every month. How do you look at that?
So it's very different for entrepreneurs as compared to salaried people, because when you talk about salaried people, they have that particular amount hitting their bank account every month. It's easier to plan your finances, it's easier to plan your investments. And for them, we have this very simple rule where we sort of say that it's obviously not set in stone, but it's like a yardstick that you can follow, where 50% of your income you use for your needs, okay, your absolute necessity, bill payments, EMIs, needs. 30% goes for your wants, and 20% goes towards saving. Okay, now saving means investing and saving. When you're talking about somebody who doesn't have a particular sort of amount coming in every month, it's important for you to review your annual finances or even your quarterly finances, and then sort of work backwards to figure out what that 20% number is. But 20% is a basic amount that you should anyway look at saving.
Any which ways.
Any which ways. So if you can't save it monthly, then look at doing it quarterly, or look at doing it semi-annually.
Actually, you're right. That helped me, because monthly planning, and it used to be irritating more than like difficult or not. It used to be irritating. You're like, oh my God, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And it became a chore.
Yeah.
But when I moved it to quarterly, it became like a fun game, because whenever
Yeah, 'cause
you
then
have
you're
extra
also-
money, you could just do it.
Because you're also looking back and reflecting that, oh, this month I made more. Why did I make more? How did I make more?
Right.
What can I do to make it happen next month and the month after that too?
Yeah.
So I think the best way to do it is to look at it at longer intervals. But again, the goal then has to go back towards working to that 20% number. Because that is something that you should...
Non-negotiable.
That's non-negotiable. That's something you should look at doing. Because you can only work your way up from there. But if you start with a 5-7%, it'll be a very long time before you actually see that significant savings or investment number in your portfolio. So look at 20% and work your way up from there.
I have a weird question.
Tell me.
People who want to be like new parents, is it like how... I believe it's a financial decision now to raise a child.
Absolutely.
So how like, I'm not married. I'm just asking because a few friends, they're like contemplating on this idea. So how does one think about it? Like having a child is such an emotional decision.
Yeah,
And bringing
but
money there must be like removing romance out of it. So
yeah,
how do you look at it?
absolutely. But it's something that you must think about. Unfortunately, it's so expensive.
Yeah, I can
I am
imagine.
not joking. It is
You
so
know.
expensive. I know now that it is absolutely important that you definitely give the financial aspect a very serious thought. You know, not to take the emotional angle out of it, but if you are going to do this with no investments or savings backing you, then I think you got to be stupid. Unfortunately.
But the question comes from the point is like, with yourself you can still budget. For your child, how do you budget? Like, you're like, oh, whatever he wants, whatever she wants, you would just do it, right? Like, so how does budgeting work with like raising kids?
But I think that the whatever he or she wants now, yaar, you know, that is a very subjective thing. You know, some parents are quite disciplined, some parents give in. But the larger thing to think about is your education
I'm
expense.
talking about that also. Like,
And
you
that
know,
is crazy. You know, I have already enrolled him into a preschool. I enrolled him into a preschool when he was 6 months old.
Okay.
Because that's how
It works.
serious this process is, and it works that way. But on an average, even preschool fees are anywhere between 2.5 to 4 lakhs a year. And this is preschool, this is not even big school. So it's definitely something to think about. It's
Yeah.
definitely something that you shouldn't go into unprepared.
sure, of course,
You know?
with those numbers.
With those numbers, gotta give it some
And
serious
that
thought.
is just the fees.
That's just the fees. And then every month, the diaper ka kharcha to is through the roof.
I think
My
I have
husband just
acted-
looks at me saying that, what? We're spending 7,000 rupees a month on diapers. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't want him peeing and pooping all over your furniture, do you?
I hear you. I'm gonna probably push this decision by a few years already.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being on our show, Aditi. It was great having you. It was a lovely chat. I really did not even realize where the time flew by.
Me too. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. And I feel, as I mentioned before, the fact that you girls make it so simple, easy, and fun, that's my favorite part. And that's how I discovered you on Instagram back during the lockdown. It was so much fun, and I think continue doing that.
Thank you.
Get
Thank
the
you. We
whole
will.
country more financially equipped.
Yes, that's the plan.
And if you guys want to learn more, then share, subscribe, and make sure that you follow the tips that they give because they really work.
Yay.